Have you ever felt like you're slowly disappearing from the lives of the people you once held close? Why do the phone calls, the visits, and the invitations begin to fade just when you need them most? And what if the most painful part isn't that people leave, but that no one talks about it? If you've reached your late 70s or 80s, you may have quietly noticed something shift. People who once called regularly now rarely check in. Friends who used to visit seem more distant, and family gatherings feel smaller, not because fewer people are attending, but because you weren't invited this time. It's not always dramatic. It's often subtle, almost invisible, but it leaves a mark. You start to wonder what changed. Did something happen? Did you say the wrong thing? Or are you simply fading out of their lives without anyone noticing? The hardest part is that no one really talks about this slow drift. They assume you're fine. They assume you're content. But inside, it can feel isolating and even confusing. In this video, we're going to explore 8 real signs that people may start pulling away after you turn 80, even if they don't realize they're doing it. These aren't just surface-level changes. Each one reveals something deeper about how society, and sometimes even your loved ones, begin to view you differently with age. But recognizing these signs isn't about accepting loss. It's about reclaiming your voice, your space, and your confidence. Because you still matter, deeply. So stay with me until the end. These insights might not only help you understand what's shifting around you, but also help you reconnect with your own value, your place in the world, and maybe even your future path forward. Sometimes, just having the words to describe what you've felt for years can be the beginning of true healing. Let's begin with the first sign. Conversations become shorter or feel more polite than personal. One of the first things you might notice is that conversations with others start to change. They become brief, a little more formal, and strangely distant. Even when someone picks up the phone or stops by for a visit, the tone feels different. There's a layer of politeness, maybe even obligation, that wasn't there before. Gone are the deep, meaningful chats, the kind that used to be full of laughter, stories, and connection. In their place are surface-level updates, quick check-ins, and small talk that seems more about filling time than building connection. And you might start asking yourself, when did our conversations stop feeling real? The conversation that once felt warm and engaging now feels more like a brief check-in, just enough for someone to say they reached out. You might begin to notice a shift in the questions people ask. They no longer want to hear your stories, your insights, or your opinions. Instead, they ask if you've eaten, if you've taken your medication, or if you need anything from the store. On the surface, it sounds like caring. But beneath it, there's a change that's hard to ignore. You go from being someone people share their hearts with to someone they feel responsible for. And even if no one says it aloud, you can feel it. How they've stopped turning to you for conversation and started checking off a box in their schedule. Why does this happen? Psychologically, as people become busier or more stressed, they tend to narrow their social focus to only what feels immediately relevant or easy. And sadly, older adults often get mentally placed in a category of past their prime. In conversations, this creates a subtle but powerful shift. You're no longer seen as a peer or a partner in discussion, but as someone to be managed or looked after. And it's not just acquaintances or distant relatives. It can be your own children or grandchildren. You sit in the same room while they talk about their jobs, their kids, or their plans, and somehow, no one thinks to ask you what you think. Not because they don't care, but because they assume you wouldn't understand. Or worse, that your input doesn't carry the same weight it used to. George, 84, once shared with me that his daughter used to call every week. She'd talk to him about work challenges, raising her kids, or just vent about the ups and downs of life. Now, the calls come once a month, and they rarely last more than 10 minutes. She still tells him she loves him, but the laughter, the depth, and the sense of emotional closeness are no longer there. This is how distance grows, not through arguments or big falling outs, but through conversations that slowly shrink until they become mechanical. And the hardest part? It makes you feel invisible, even when you're sitting right there in the same room. Another sign that people may be slowly pulling away after you turn 80 is when the invitations stop coming, whether to family events or simple social gatherings. Birthday parties, weddings, Sunday dinners, occasions that once included you without question now happen without your knowledge. At first, you may brush it off as an oversight or scheduling error. But as it happens again and again, a pattern begins to form. You hear phrases like, "We didn't want to tire you out," or "It was a long drive and we didn't want to put pressure on you." Or worse, no one says anything at all. You simply find out after the fact that something meaningful happened and you weren't there. And the painful truth is that this exclusion rarely comes from malice. More often, it's wrapped in concern or masked as thoughtfulness. But whether they mean to or not, the message becomes clear. You're no longer seen as part of the moment, as someone to include and celebrate. You start to feel as though you're no longer expected to be there, or worse, that your presence wouldn't really make a difference if you were. There's actually a psychological term for this: assumed limitation. It happens when others begin to make quiet assumptions about what you can and cannot do. They decide, without asking, that you're too tired, too forgetful, or too slow to participate fully, and they remove you from the equation before you've even had the chance to say yes or no. Take Ruth, for example. She's 82 now, but for decades she was the heart of her family's Thanksgiving tradition. Every year, her home was filled with laughter, the smell of roasted turkey, and the joy of having everyone gathered around one table. Then, out of nowhere, her granddaughter sent a group text saying Thanksgiving would now be hosted at her house to give Grandma a break. No one asked Ruth if she wanted that break. No one even spoke to her directly. She found out through a forwarded message. Just like that, she went from being the host to simply being a guest, and later from guest to someone no longer in the loop. It's a painful shift, to go from being at the center of a tradition to feeling like an afterthought. And over time, the message becomes painfully clear. Your role is shrinking, but here's where the real harm happens. It's not just that you're being left out of events, it's that you start to feel disconnected from the flow of family life. You stop being in the photos, the spontaneous moments, the shared memories. You're not just absent from the events, you're absent from the story. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights meaningful, I'd love to hear from you. Please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. Your support helps us continue making content that speaks to real experiences and brings them into the light. Now let's move to another powerful sign that someone may be quietly pulling away. They stop asking for your opinion or advice. As you move deeper into your 80s, you may begin to notice a subtle but painful shift. The phone calls you once received, asking for help with parenting, financial advice, or how to handle life's tough decisions, start to disappear. Where you were once a trusted voice, now you're bypassed entirely. Plans are made, choices are announced, and you're informed after the fact, as if your insight no longer carries value. It's rarely meant with malice, but the impact still cuts deep. It sends the message, even if unspoken, that your wisdom doesn't matter the way it once did. That somehow, your perspective is outdated. That your lived experience no longer has a place in the present conversation. Psychologically, this shift is tied to a broader societal mindset. We often, without realizing it, link age with declining usefulness. And while this isn't always said out loud, it shows up in small, painful ways. Ways that slowly, over time, begin to feel like erasure. The older you get, the more people begin to assume that you're out of touch with the fast-moving world around them. They might believe you don't understand modern problems, or worse, that your advice is outdated, something from a different time that no longer applies. But let's ask the obvious question. Since when did wisdom come with an expiration date? If anything, age brings sharper insight. You've seen life unfold in ways that younger people haven't even imagined yet. You've watched patterns repeat, you've made mistakes, and learned deeply from them. You've endured loss, built resilience, and gathered lessons that no book or blog post could ever teach. That kind of clarity is rare. That kind of wisdom is earned. Take Harold, 85. He told me that his son used to ask for his input on everything, from buying a car to managing workplace conflict. Harold was the first call when something serious came up, but now he says he hears about major life decisions only after they've already happened. His son will say things like, "We didn't want to bother you," or "It all happened too fast to ask." And Harold? He's left wondering when exactly he shifted from trusted mentor to silent observer. This isn't just about pride. Being asked for advice is about more than sharing knowledge. It makes us feel needed, valued, and respected. When that stops, something inside can begin to ache. It's not just the silence that stings, it's the quiet realization that people might believe your most thoughtful years are behind you, when in truth, some of your greatest wisdom may still be waiting to be heard. Another subtle but deeply telling sign that people may be pulling away is this: they only visit when it's convenient for them. There comes a point, often after you've passed 80, when visits start to feel less like genuine connection and more like a scheduled task. People no longer stop by just to sit with you, laugh over old stories, or share a spontaneous cup of coffee. Instead, they show up when there's a reason. They're dropping something off, checking off a list, or showing face out of guilt because it's been a while. You can feel it in the way they behave. They glance at the clock more often. They stay standing instead of settling into a chair. Their phone buzzes, and they sneak a look, even while you're mid-sentence. You're speaking, but their mind is already somewhere else. Why does this happen? Most of the time, it's not done out of cruelty. It's a byproduct of life's increasing busyness. As people juggle more responsibilities, they begin measuring their time in terms of what feels productive or necessary. And when someone is no longer part of their daily routine or decision-making world, visits to that person begin to lose priority. For many older adults, especially those who are no longer involved in work or parenting, this can mean that time spent with them is viewed not as relationship building, but as a favor. And that shift, even if unspoken, can be felt in every rushed goodbye. The visits stop feeling spontaneous. They become less about joy and more about routine, almost like a task to complete. You start to feel like you've been placed into a different category altogether. Not quite family in the warm emotional sense, but more like something to check on. Like a houseplant that needs watering or a pet that needs feeding. What used to be natural connection gets replaced by structure and scheduling. Take Eileen, age 83. Her niece used to drop by unannounced, sometimes just to chat or ask for her famous chicken pot pie recipe. They'd laugh in the kitchen, catch up on life, and it always felt sincere. But these days, the niece calls ahead, arrives every Sunday at exactly 4 p.m., stays for 30 minutes, and brings groceries, before heading back out the door. And while Eileen is grateful for the support, there's something she doesn't say out loud. She's quietly heartbroken, because these visits don't really feel like they're for her anymore. They're for her niece, to ease her own sense of duty, to check off the visit like an item on a to-do list. That kind of shift wears on you. Over time, it begins to chip away at your sense of connection. You start to wonder, are they here because they truly want to be, or just because they feel they have to be? And with every perfectly timed, overly polite visit, you feel yourself being moved further away from the emotional center of their lives. You smile, you say thank you, you tell them not to worry, but deep inside, you miss the feeling of being wanted, of being seen, of having someone knock on your door for no reason other than love and presence. No agenda, no stopwatch, just care and connection showing up at your door. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on the bell so you never miss a new video. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content to inform and inspire. Now let's move to something even more personal: when people start making decisions about your life without including you. This is one of the more painful signs that someone may be pulling away after you turn 80. And it often begins so quietly, you don't notice it at first. Someone signs you up for a new doctor without asking. They reorganize your kitchen for safety. They tell you, "I'm picking you up at 10," instead of asking, "Would 10 work for you?" In the beginning, it might feel like help. And sometimes it is. But slowly, the tone shifts. It doesn't feel like support anymore. It feels like control. Here's the tricky part. Most of these decisions come from a place of love. The people around you aren't trying to hurt you. They think they're doing what's best. But the issue isn't the help itself. It's the quiet, steady way your voice starts to vanish from the conversation. You're still here, still capable, still thoughtful. Yet somehow, the decisions are being made without you. You begin to feel like a bystander in your own life, watching decisions unfold around you, yet having no real say in them. Psychologists refer to this as benevolent ageism, a mindset where people treat older adults with kindness, but also with the quiet assumption that they're no longer capable of making sound decisions. It comes from a good place usually. The intent is to protect. But the effect? It's disempowering. It quietly sends the message that your judgment no longer matters, that your choices might be too risky, too outdated, or too complicated to trust. Take Frank, age 86. Last year, his daughter decided it would be better if he lived closer to her. She found a smaller apartment near her home, signed the lease, hired the movers, and then told Frank everything after the fact. Frank didn't argue. He smiled and thanked her. But inside, something shifted. He didn't just lose square footage. He lost his voice. His say in his own living situation was gone. These kinds of changes don't always happen all at once. They creep in slowly, one decision at a time. And with each one, you begin to feel a little more invisible, a little more like a project to manage than a person to listen to. You've lived a long life. You've made choices, raised families, managed careers. And now, suddenly, your opinion is set aside, without discussion. Losing control over your own life, especially when your mind is still sharp and your spirit still engaged, isn't just frustrating. It's heartbreaking, because underneath it all is a much deeper message, that the people around you may no longer see you as capable, that they're no longer listening, not because they don't love you, but because they think they know better. And that quiet shift, that loss of agency, can feel even lonelier than being left out of the room. Another sign that people may be slowly pulling away? You hear about important family news last, or not at all. This one is particularly painful. There was a time when you were the first to know everything: who got engaged, who was expecting a baby, who changed jobs, or moved to a new city. People used to reach out to you first, eager to share life's milestones, big or small. But now, more and more, you find out after the fact, or not at all. You hear about a move in passing. "Oh, didn't we tell you? She's moving to Texas next month." Or someone says, "We figured it wouldn't really interest you." Those words sting, not just because you were left out of the loop, but because they suggest something deeper, that you've somehow faded into the background of your own family's story. And most of the time, this exclusion isn't done with ill intent. It comes from assumptions. They think the details might be too complicated, that you won't remember or won't follow, that you don't need to be part of the decision or the celebration. Sometimes family filters the information they share with you. They say it's to protect you, to shield you from stress or emotional burden, so they quietly decide what you do or don't need to know. But here's the truth. Being left out doesn't protect you. It isolates you. Instead of feeling included and informed, you're left with fragments, half-heard comments, vague mentions, or silence that speaks volumes. Life seems to move on without you, and you're left on the edges, trying to piece together what's happening from what little slips through. Take Clara, for example. She's 81. One afternoon, she was scrolling through Facebook and saw a photo of her grandson with a caption, "She said yes." That's how she found out he was engaged. No phone call, no excited update, just a post that everyone else seemed to have known about for weeks. Clara didn't say anything. She hit the like button, smiled politely, and went on with her day. But deep inside, she felt something break. Not because of the engagement, that was wonderful news, but because she was supposed to be part of that joy. She wasn't just missing the update, she was missing the role she once held in the story. It's not just about the news itself, it's about what that news represents. Being included means being valued. Being told means being remembered. When those moments disappear, it sends a painful message that your presence, your reaction, your connection, they're no longer essential. You start to feel like you're watching life from the sidelines, not because you want to, but because the invitation to be part of the inner circle stopped coming. And that's one of the quietest, most heartbreaking ways people begin to leave your life. Not by walking out the door, but by slowly closing it to communication, one small moment at a time. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights meaningful, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so. Tap the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next video. Your support helps us continue creating content that speaks directly to your experiences and feelings. Let's keep going. Another sign, often overlooked, is this. People stop helping you with the small things they used to do without hesitation. It doesn't happen all at once. At first, they might happily change a light bulb, run to the pharmacy for you, or patiently help set up your phone. These weren't big favors, just small gestures that said, "I'm here and I care." But over time, those offers become less frequent. You start hearing responses like, "Can it wait?" or "Maybe next week." Sometimes even, "You'll figure it out." And while it might seem like they're just busy, the shift often goes deeper. It reflects a quiet fading of attentiveness. Those little things that once made you feel supported, seen, and woven into the rhythm of their lives. They begin to disappear, leaving you more alone to handle tasks you didn't used to do on your own. Handle alone, or not at all. But here's the thing, it's never just about the tasks themselves, it's about the message behind them. When someone helps you, even in the smallest ways, it's like they're saying, "I see you, I care about your comfort, you still matter." But when that help gradually disappears, the silence that follows speaks even louder. From a psychological perspective, experts often refer to this as care fatigue. Over time, as people become consumed with their own families, work stress, and busy routines, they unintentionally shift their attention away from older adults. Your needs, once part of their rhythm, start to fade from their radar. And the older you get, the more invisible those needs seem to become. Take Martin, for instance. He's 84. His granddaughter used to stop by every Sunday like clockwork. She'd help him sort through mail, update his smartphone, and laugh over old family stories. But lately, the visits stopped. When Martin called to check in, she simply said, "I figured you were doing fine. You always manage." Martin smiled and said he understood. But afterward, he looked down at the pile of unopened letters, and the phone that now felt more like a paperweight than a connection to the outside world. That's how it happens. It doesn't come with a dramatic exit. It comes quietly in the form of a missed Sunday, a canceled plan, a task left undone. And over time, the message begins to settle in. You're on your own now. Not because you wanted it that way, but because someone assumed you'd be okay without them. And that's what truly hurts. Not the lack of help, but the loss of connection. Because needing help doesn't mean weakness, it means being human. And when people stop showing up, the warmth and bond behind those little gestures fade too. Number 8. They begin speaking about you in the third person, even when you're sitting right there. This may be one of the most subtle, yet deeply painful signs that someone has started to emotionally drift away. It's not always cruel. Sometimes it starts in the most routine settings, like a doctor's office. A nurse walks in and instead of speaking to you, turns to your daughter and asks, "So, how is he doing with his medications?" Or a family member answers on your behalf before you even open your mouth. "She's doing fine, just tired lately." And suddenly, in a room full of people, you become the only one not spoken to, just spoken about. This might seem like a small thing to some, but its emotional weight is heavy. Because in that moment, you stop being the subject of your own story. You become an object in someone else's conversation. It's not just impolite, it's dehumanizing. It sends a subtle but sharp message that your voice no longer matters, that your awareness and ability to speak for yourself have quietly been taken off the table. Slowly written out. Psychologically, this behavior comes from the same place as many other forms of subtle, unintentional ageism. People believe they're helping, believing they're being kind by stepping in or taking over. But the truth is, their actions quietly strip away your autonomy, your intelligence, and your sense of presence. Take Ella Laner, 86, still sharp-minded, still starting each day by reading the morning newspaper. At a recent family dinner, her niece casually turned to the rest of the table and said, "She gets confused after 6, so we don't call her in the evenings anymore." Eleanor looked up, surprised and hurt. But no one noticed. The conversation simply moved on, as if her reaction didn't matter. And what stings most isn't just the words, it's the absence of inclusion. No one thought to ask her, no one checked in, no one paused long enough to listen. It was a decision made about her, not with her. And that kind of disregard doesn't just show up in medical talk. Sometimes it's buried in everyday comments. "Grandpa can't hear well," someone whispers, even though you clearly heard every word. Or, "Don't worry, she won't mind," when no one actually asked. These small moments, each one so brief you could almost miss it, begin to pile up. They chip away at your sense of self, not because anyone means to hurt you, but because they forget. They forget that you are still thinking, still feeling, still fully aware. And when the people around you start to forget that, you begin to feel like a shadow in your own life, present but disconnected, seen but not truly acknowledged. This is one of the quietest yet most powerful signs that people are slipping away, not by leaving the room, but by no longer treating you like you're fully in it. Final thoughts. As we come to the end of this video, let me gently ask, how many of these signs have echoed in your own experience? Which moments have you quietly felt but never spoken aloud, until now? This video wasn't made to sadden you. It was made to give a voice to feelings that often go unnamed, and to remind you, your story still matters. Your voice is still strong. You are still here, and you deserve to be seen, heard, and respected. This isn't about making you feel sad or forgotten. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about affirming that what you're feeling is real. You're not overthinking it, and more importantly, you are absolutely not alone. These signs aren't just in your imagination. They're reflections of subtle shifts that many experience, but few talk about. Recognizing them doesn't mean you've lost your place in the world. It means you're still present, still aware, and still capable of growing, speaking up, and claiming the space you rightfully deserve in the lives of those around you. Sometimes, when others begin to step back, it's actually your moment to step forward, with more clarity, more courage, and more self-respect than ever before. Maybe it's time to ask to be included, to gently but firmly set boundaries, or to speak up when someone talks around you instead of to you. These small but powerful choices can help reshape how others see you and how you see yourself. Because you still matter. You always have. And that value doesn't depend on anyone else's attention or approval. It starts with you, how you advocate for yourself, how you stay engaged, and how you choose to be visible, even when the world around you forgets to look. So let me ask you, what part of this message spoke to you the most? Was there a moment or a sign that mirrored something you've gone through? Or perhaps one that made you rethink how you'll handle things from now on? Thank you so much for being here today. We'd truly love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one insight you took from this video and how you might use it in your own life. Your stories mean the world to us, and reading them gives us the motivation to keep creating content that informs, connects, and inspires. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. Your support helps us continue this important work. Wishing you continued health, happiness, and peace. And remember to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss what's coming next.